The Mafia boss got a call at midnight. His ex-wife was in an accident, and he was still her emergency contact. When he arrived, he found her unconscious and a little girl in the hallway with his eyes. 5 years ago, she walked away pregnant. Now, someone knows about his daughter, and they're coming for her. The bourbon in Lorenzo Moretti's glass caught the amber glow of his desk lamp as he signed off on the last shipment manifest of the night. Legitimate business now. Imported Italian leather goods, high-end furniture, nothing that would interest the FBI anymore. 5 years clean, 5 years invisible, 5 years dead to the world that once called him king. His penthouse in Lower Manhattan was silent except for the hum of the city below. No guards at his door.
No encrypted phones.
No blood on his hands. Just a man who'd walked away from an empire because staying meant becoming a monster he couldn't recognize anymore. The phone on his desk, his only phone now, just a regular iPhone, lit up with an unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Old instincts screamed trap. But something made him swipe. Mr. Moretti? A woman's voice, professional but strained. This is Mount Sinai Hospital. I'm calling about Elena Russo. You're listed as her emergency contact. Lorenzo's hand froze halfway to his mouth.
Elena.
He hadn't heard that name spoken aloud in 5 years. What happened? His voice came out rougher than he intended. There was an accident. A hit-and-run in Brooklyn. She's in surgery now, but she's stable. However, sir, there's a child with her. A little girl. She won't talk to anyone, and we can't reach any other family members. Can you come? Lorenzo was already grabbing his keys. I'm 10 minutes away. He hung up and stood there for 3 full seconds, his mind racing through possibilities. Elena had kept him as her emergency contact. After everything. After she'd walked out of their marriage with nothing but a suitcase and words that still haunted him. I can't watch you become the thing you hate, Lorenzo. And I can't let our child grow up in your shadow.
Our child.
She'd been 2 months pregnant when she left. He'd known. She'd known he knew. And they'd both made the choice to let each other go. But a child. Here.
Now.
Lorenzo grabbed his jacket and headed for the elevator, his heart hammering in a way it hadn't since he'd put a bullet in the head of the man who'd killed his father. Different kind of fear. The kind that comes when you realize the past isn't buried, it's just been waiting. Mount Sinai's emergency room smelled like antiseptic and burnt coffee. Lorenzo walked through the sliding doors, and for a moment, he was invisible, just another worried family member in jeans and a dark coat.
No taller suites anymore.
No Italian leather shoes that cost more than a car. He'd learned to blend in to be nobody. A nurse directed him to the surgical wing's waiting area. His eyes scanned the space automatically, old habits cataloging exits, security cameras, potential threats. Then he saw her. A little girl sat alone on a plastic chair, her legs dangling above the floor. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old. Dark curly hair fell around her face as she clutched a worn teddy bear to her chest. Her clothes were rumpled, pink leggings and a small denim jacket, and there was a smudge of something on her cheek. Chocolate, maybe. Lorenzo's breath caught. She had his eyes. Dark, almost black, with that same intense focus he saw in the mirror every morning. And her chin, that stubborn set to her jaw, that was pure Elena. He approached slowly, the way you'd approach a wounded animal. When he was 3 feet away, she looked up. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Are you my mommy's friend? Her voice was small, hesitant. Lorenzo crouched down to her level, his throat tight. I'm a friend. My name's Lorenzo. What's your name? Sophia. She hugged the bear tighter.
Sofia Russo. Russo.
Elena's maiden name. Not Moretti.
Smart.
Safer. That's a beautiful name, he said softly. Sophia, your mom is going to be okay. The doctors are taking good care of her. The car was really fast, Sophia's eyes filled with tears. Mommy pushed me out of the way, but she didn't move fast enough. Is it my fault? No. The word came out sharp, protective. Lorenzo caught himself, softened his tone.
No, sweetheart.
It's not your fault. Your mom was being brave. She was protecting you, because that's what moms do. What do dads do? The question hit him like a punch to the chest. Before he could answer, a doctor emerged from the double doors, surgical mask pulled down around his neck. Family of Elena Russo. Lorenzo stood. I'm here. The doctor glanced at Sofia, then back at Lorenzo, clearly trying to figure out the relationship. She's stable. The surgery went well. We repaired a ruptured spleen and set her broken leg. She's lucky, could have been much worse. She'll need to stay for observation, but she should make a full recovery. Relief flooded through Lorenzo's chest. When can I see her? She's in recovery now. Another hour, maybe. Are you? The doctor looked at Sofia again. I'm family, Lorenzo said firmly. It wasn't a lie. Not really. The doctor nodded and left. Lorenzo turned back to Sofia, who was watching him with those two knowing eyes. Children who grow up around secrets learn to read people early. Is your mommy really going to be okay? She asked. Yeah, she is. Are you really her friend, or are you something else? Smart kid. Too smart. Lorenzo sat down beside her, keeping a respectful distance. I used to be married to your mom. A long time ago. Before you were born. Sofia processed this, her little forehead wrinkling. So you're like a before dad? The words gutted him. Something like that. Do you have kids now? No, he said quietly. Just you. Sofia tilted her head, considering him with an intensity that was unnerving in someone so small. Then she did something that broke him completely. She scooted closer and leaned her head against his arm. I'm scared, she whispered. Lorenzo's hand hovered for a moment before he gently rested it on her shoulder. Me too, kiddo. Me too. They sat like that in the waiting room, a ghost of a man and the daughter he never knew he had, while Elena fought her way back to consciousness 3 floors above them. Lorenzo's mind was already racing ahead. Hit and run in Brooklyn. Could be random. Probably was random. But 5 years ago, he'd made a lot of enemies. And if anyone from his old life found out Elena was alive, found out about Sofia. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again. He checked the text. Heard you've been busy tonight, ghost. The king returns for his queen? How poetic. See you soon. Lorenzo's blood turned to ice.
Vittorio.
The game had just begun. Elena's room was dim when they finally let Lorenzo in. Sofia had fallen asleep in the waiting room, curled up on 2 chairs pushed together, the teddy bear clutched under her chin. A nurse promised to watch her while Lorenzo went inside. Elena lay propped against white pillows, her face pale except for the bruising that had already started to bloom across her left cheekbone. Her leg was in a cast, elevated, for lines snaked from her arm. But her eyes, those fierce green eyes that had first captured him in a college bar 12 years ago, were open and alert. They locked onto him the moment he entered. Lorenzo, his name came out like an exhale, like she'd been holding her breath for 5 years. Hey, Ellie, he stood at the foot of her bed, hands in his pockets, because he didn't trust what they'd do otherwise. Reach for her, probably. Old muscle memory. They called you, it wasn't a question. I'm still your emergency contact, apparently. A ghost of a smile crossed her lips. I kept forgetting to change it. Or maybe I didn't forget. Silence stretched between them, filled with everything they'd never said, everything they'd walked away from. She's beautiful, Lorenzo said quietly. Sofia. Elena's expression shifted. Fear, defiance, and something else he couldn't name. You met her. She has my eyes. I know, Elena's voice cracked. God, Lorenzo, I know. Every time she looks at me, I see you. He moved closer, pulled up the chair beside her bed, and sat. Why didn't you tell me? Because I loved you. The words came out fierce, raw. Because you were drowning in that world, and I couldn't save you. But I could save her. I could give her a normal life. Ballet classes and birthday parties and bedtime stories that don't end with someone getting killed. Lorenzo looked down at his hands. Clean hands now, but the stains never really washed away. You were right to leave. I was becoming exactly what my father was. He met her eyes. I walked away, Elena. 3 months after you left. Dismantled everything piece by piece, moved the legitimate assets offshore, cut ties with everyone. I've been nobody for 5 years. Just a guy who imports furniture. Elena stared at him like she was seeing a ghost. You left the family? There was no family left to lead. Not after you took the only family I cared about, he paused. I looked for you. For months. But you'd vanished. I had help. My cousin in Seattle set up the new identity. We moved every year, Portland, Denver, Chicago. Ended up in Brooklyn 6 months ago. Sophia needed stability. She starts first grade next week. Elena's voice broke. Started. She was supposed to start. She will start, Lorenzo said firmly. You're going to be fine. The doctors said. That's not what I'm worried about. Elena grabbed his hand suddenly, her grip weak but desperate. Lorenzo, it wasn't an accident. The car that hit us, it didn't swerve. It didn't brake. It accelerated. Right at us. Ice flooded Lorenzo's veins. You're sure? I saw the driver's face. He was looking right at me. Right before I pushed Sophia away, tears streamed down Elena's cheeks. Someone found us. Someone knows. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. The text message.
Vittorio.
Tell me everything. What have you noticed? Anyone following you? Strange calls? Anything? Elena shook her head. Nothing. We've been careful. I work remotely as a graphic designer. Sophia goes to a small private school. We don't use social media. I thought we were safe. Vittorio Rossi sent me a message tonight. He knows I'm here. The color drained from Elena's face.
Vittorio?
Your old lieutenant. Not mine anymore. After I left, there was a power vacuum. He took over most of the northern operations. But he's sloppy, ambitious. He's made enemies. And he thinks getting to you through us will what? Bring you back? Kill you. Both probably. Lorenzo's mind was already working through scenarios, calculating threats, planning moves. Old instincts kicking in like he'd never left. If word gets out that I have a daughter, every rival family will see her as leverage. She becomes a target. You become a target. Then what do we do? Elena's voice was steel despite the tears. Because I won't let anyone hurt her, Lorenzo. I'll disappear again. I'll take her somewhere he can't. You can barely walk. And he already knows where you are. Lorenzo squeezed her hand. There's only one way to keep her safe now. Don't say it. I have to come back. The words tasted like ash. Not permanently. Just long enough to remind them why they used to be afraid of me. You'll become that person again. The one I left. Maybe. Lorenzo stood, paced to the window, looked out at the city lights. Or maybe I've learned something in 5 years. Maybe I can be the monster just long enough to protect what matters, then walk away again. You really think you can control it? The violence? The rage? He turned back to her. For Sophia? I'll become whatever I need to be. Elena closed her eyes. She asked about you, didn't she? In the waiting room. She called me before Dad.
Sob logo escape de Helena.
That sounds like her. She's too smart for 6. Questions everything. Wonder where she gets that. Lorenzo returned to the bedside. Elena, I need to move you both somewhere safe. Tonight. Before Vittorio makes his next move. We can't just leave. My apartment, her school. Our death traps now. He pulled out his phone. Not the iPhone, but a second phone he'd pulled from a hidden compartment in his car. Old habits. I have a place. Secure. Outside the city. No one knows about it except me. Lorenzo. Do you trust me? The question hung in the air between them. 5 years of silence. 5 years of separate lives. One daughter who connected them forever. Elena looked at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I trust you to protect her. I always did. That's why I left. Because I knew you'd choose her safety over everything, even your empire. I just couldn't wait around to see if you'd figure that out in time. I'm figuring it out now. Better late than never, I guess. Lorenzo's phone buzzed. Another text from Vittorio. Pretty daughter. Shame if something happened to her school. P.S. Does she like swings? There's a nice playground on Bergen Street. The address was 2 blocks from Elena's apartment. Lorenzo's expression went cold, that old dangerous calm settling over him like a second skin. We're leaving in an hour. I'll arrange everything. What are you going to do? He looked at her, and for just a moment, she saw the man she'd fallen in love with and the man she'd feared he'd become, all at once. I'm going to remind Vittorio why ghosts are the things you should fear most. By dawn, Lorenzo had Elena and Sophia in a blacked-out SUV heading north toward the Catskills. Sophia slept in the back seat, still clutching her teddy bear. Elena sat in the passenger seat, silent, watching the city disappear behind them. But in Manhattan, in the back room of a social club that officially didn't exist, another conversation was beginning. Vittorio Rossi sat at the head of a long table, a glass of grappa in his hand, and a smile on his face that didn't reach his eyes. He was younger than Lorenzo by 5 years, handsome in that dangerous way that made people underestimate him. That was usually their last mistake. Around the table sat the heads of 3 families, the Castellanos from Boston, the DeMarcos from Philadelphia, and the Yukos, who'd moved in from Chicago after Lorenzo's exit left a power vacuum big enough to drive a truck through. Gentlemen, Vittorio said, his voice smooth as silk. Thank you for coming on such short notice. I have news that will interest you all. Marco Castellano, a barrel-chested man in his 60s with more scars than smile lines, grunted. This better be good, Rossi. I don't drive 3 hours for gossip. Oh. It's better than gossip. Vittorio pulled out his phone and tapped the screen. A photo appeared on the monitor behind him, grainy, pulled from a hospital security camera. Lorenzo crouched down, talking to a little girl in a waiting room. The ghost of Manhattan is alive. And he has a daughter. The room erupted. Bullshit, said Anthony DeMarco, youngest of the 3 at 45, with slick back hair and a suit that cost more than most people's cars. Lorenzo Moretti died 5 years ago. Or disappeared. Same difference. Did he? Vittorio advanced to the next photo, Lorenzo entering Elena's hospital room. This was taken last night at Mount Sinai, after his ex-wife was hit by a car. A car I may have provided the driver for. You tried to kill his wife? Yuki Tanaka, the only woman at the table, set down her tea with a sharp click. She ran the Yuko family with more efficiency and brutality than her late husband ever had. That's bold. Or stupid.
Strategic. Vittorio corrected.
I needed to draw him out. Confirm he was alive. And look, here he is. 5 years of hiding, and all it took was threatening his family. Marco leaned back in his chair. So what? He's out of the game. Has been for years. Let sleeping dogs lie. Sleeping dogs don't have heirs. Vittorio's smile sharpened. That little girl? She's his blood. Direct line to the Moretti legacy. The territories Lorenzo once controlled, the ports, the trade routes, the political connections, those didn't disappear. They've been sitting dormant, waiting. Some of you have tried to take them. He looked pointedly at Marco. But the old families still remember who the real king was. They're loyal to the name, not to us. Get to the point, Yuki said coldly. The point is simple. Lorenzo's weakness is now visible. His daughter. If we control her, we control him. We can force him to transfer his assets, his connections, his loyalties. Or, Vittorio paused for effect, we eliminate them both. Remove the Moretti name from the board, permanently. Then we divide his old territory fairly among us. Fairly, Anthony snorted. Meaning you get the biggest piece. I did the work. I drew him out. I found the weakness. Vittorio's voice hardened. I spent 5 years building power while you all fought over scraps. Now I'm offering you a chance to feast. But if you're not interested, how do you know he won't just disappear again?
Marco interrupted.
take the girl, and vanish. Because I made it personal. I threatened his child directly. Sent him her school address. Vittorio refilled his grappa. Lorenzo Moretti was many things, but he was never a coward. He won't run. He'll fight. And when he does, he'll be rusty, sloppy, emotional. He's been playing businessman for 5 years. We've been sharpening our teeth. Yuki studied the photos. He doesn't look rusty to me. He looks like a man who remembered why people used to fear him. Then we make them fear us more, Vittorio stood. I'm moving men into Brooklyn tonight. The wife and kid were at Mount Sinai, but by now he's moved them somewhere secure. We find that location. We end this quickly. And if we can't find them, Anthony asked, then we burn down everything he cares about until he comes to us. Vittorio's eyes glittered. His old restaurants, his legitimate businesses, the charity foundation his mother started, all of it. We make noise. We make him choose between hiding and fighting.
Marco stood slowly.
You're talking about starting a war. I'm talking about finishing one that never ended. Lorenzo walked away, but he never surrendered. That makes him a threat as long as he breathes. Vittorio walked to the window overlooking Mulberry Street. 5 years ago, he was untouchable, the king of Manhattan. But kings who abandon their thrones don't get to keep their crowns. They get buried in the ruins they left behind. I'm in, Anthony said. The DeMarco family will commit 20 men and full access to our Philadelphia ports. When you find a girl, we want a cut of the Moretti shipping operations. Yuki considered longer. The Yuko family will provide intelligence and financial backing. But we don't touch the child unless absolutely necessary. Bad for business when civilians start paying attention. All eyes turned to Marco. The old man stood there, remembering a night 20 years ago when a young Lorenzo Moretti had walked into a meeting just like this one and single-handedly negotiated peace between 5 warring families. The kid had been fearless, brilliant, dangerous. He'd built an empire on respect and terror in equal measure. He taught you everything you know, Vittorio, Marco said quietly. You really think you can beat your teacher? He's not my teacher anymore. He's just a man protecting a family he abandoned. Vittorio's smile was all teeth. And men with weaknesses are easy to kill.
Marco nodded slowly.
The Castellano family is in. But when this goes sideways, and it will, don't come crying to me. It won't go sideways. Vittorio raised his glass. To the fall of kings and the rise of new empires. They drank. Outside, the city moved on, unaware that beneath its surface, old powers were stirring. By noon, word would spread through every underground channel, every hidden club, every backroom deal from New York to Chicago. The ghost is alive. The hunt is on. And Lorenzo Moretti's daughter is the prize. In the Catskills, Lorenzo's burner phone buzzed with messages from old contacts, people he hadn't spoken to in 5 years. Is it true? Do you need soldiers? The young ones don't remember you. Teach them. He deleted them all except one, from a number he recognized. Tommy Chun, his old driver, the only man from his past life he'd kept tabs on. The message was simple. Vittorio's calling a council. For families. They're coming for her, boss. All of them. Lorenzo looked at Sophia through the rearview mirror, sleeping peacefully, unaware that her existence had just reignited a war. He typed back, let them come. The safe house was a converted farmhouse tucked into 40 acres of woods, 2 hours north of the city. Lorenzo had bought it under a shell corporation 3 years ago, one of many contingencies he'd hoped never to use. The place was simple but secure. Reinforced doors, surveillance cameras hidden in the trees, a panic room in the basement, and enough supplies to last a month. Elena woke up as the SUV crunched up the gravel driveway. Pain medication had kept her sedated for most of the drive, but now her eyes snapped open with the alertness of a mother whose child might be in danger. Where are we? Her voice was groggy. Safe, Lorenzo said. That's all that matters. Sophia stirred in the back seat, yawning. Are we there yet? Yeah, kiddo. We're here, Lorenzo parked and came around to help Elena out. She winced as she maneuvered on her crutches, but she waved away his attempt to carry her. I can walk. Stubborn as ever. You expected different. Sophia scrambled out after them, looking around at the trees and the house with wide eyes. Is this a castle? More like a fort, Lorenzo said, unlocking the front door. But yeah, kind of. Inside, the house was sparsely furnished but clean. Lorenzo had called ahead. One of his few remaining trusted contacts had stocked the fridge and turned on the heat. The living room had a stone fireplace, comfortable couches, and windows that looked out onto the forest. Sophia immediately ran to explore, her teddy bear tucked under one arm. Elena watched her go, then turned to Lorenzo with fire in her eyes. How long do we have to hide here? As long as it takes. That's not an answer. Lorenzo set their bags down and faced her. Vittorio's called in 3 other families. They're mobilizing against us. Against her. So the answer is, until I make this problem disappear. And how exactly do you plan to do that? Elena's voice rose. You've been out of the game for 5 years, Lorenzo. You don't have soldiers. You don't have allies. You're one man against 4 families.
I'm aware.
Then explain to me how this ends without us running for the rest of our lives. Without Sophia growing up looking over her shoulder, wondering if every stranger on the street is coming to hurt her. Lorenzo was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You remember what you told me the day you left? I said a lot of things. You said I couldn't love you and love my empire at the same time. That I had to choose. He met her eyes. I chose wrong. I thought I could hold on to both, that I could keep you safe inside that world. But you were right. I was becoming a monster. So I walked away from the empire. But I never stopped loving you. Elena's breath caught. Lorenzo, I'm not asking you to forgive me. Or take me back. I'm just telling you the truth. He moved closer. For 5 years, I've been half alive. Going through the motions. Pretending I was content being nobody. Then I saw Sophia in that hospital, and something woke up. Not the monster, something else. The part of me that knows what I'm fighting for now. You can't protect us by becoming him again. The man you were. I'm not becoming him, Lorenzo interrupted. I'm using him. There's a difference. The old Lorenzo? He fought for power, for respect, for an empire built on fear. This Lorenzo fights for a 6-year-old girl who called me a before dad and made me realize I want to be her actual dad. Tears spilled down Elena's cheeks. You should have stayed dead. You should have let us disappear. Maybe. But they found you anyway. Vittorio found you. And if he could, others will too, Lorenzo's voice softened. Elena, I know you hate needing me. I know you spent 5 years building a life without me. But right now, I'm all that stands between Sophia and people who see her as a tool or a target. So yeah, I'm going to use every dark skill I learned in that world. But this time, I'm using them for something that matters. Before Elena could respond, Sophia's voice called from upstairs. Mommy, there's a room with bunk beds. Can I sleep on the top? Elena wiped her eyes quickly. Let me see, baby. She hobbled toward the stairs, and Lorenzo moved to help her. For a moment, their hands touched on the railing. Neither pulled away.
Interfered, Elena whispered.
Not of them. Of losing you to that darkness again. Then keep me in the light, Lorenzo said. You and Sophia. Be the reason I come back. Upstairs, they found Sophia bouncing excitedly in a bedroom painted soft yellow. The bunk beds were carved wood, probably left by the previous owner. Sunlight streamed through the windows. Can I, Mommy? Please. Elena smiled despite everything. Let's start with the bottom bunk until my leg heals. I need to be able to reach you for bedtime stories. Will we be here a long time? Maybe a little while. Is it because of the bad people? Sophia's voice was suddenly small. The ones who hurt you with the car? Elena and Lorenzo exchanged glances. They'd always agreed to never lie to their child, back when they'd had those hypothetical conversations about parenting before everything fell apart. Elena knelt down carefully, wincing.
Yes, sweetheart.
There are some people who want to hurt us. But Lorenzo, she hesitated, then continued, your dad is going to make sure they can't. Sophia looked at Lorenzo with those dark, knowing eyes. Are you really my dad? The question hit him like a bullet. He crouched down beside Elena.
Yeah.
I am. I know I wasn't around before, and I'm sorry for that. But I'm here now, and I'm going to keep you and your mom safe. I promise. Do you know how to fight bad people? I used to be very good at it. Good. Sophia threw her arms around his neck suddenly, fiercely. Because I don't want mommy to get hurt again. Lorenzo's arms came up automatically, holding her tight. Over Sophia's shoulder, he saw Elena's face, torn between fear and something that looked dangerously like hope. His phone buzzed. He pulled it out carefully, not letting go of Sophia. The message was from Tommy. They hit your mother's foundation office. Burned it to the ground. Message spray-painted on the wall. We're coming for the princess. Lorenzo's expression went cold. Elena saw it. What happened? They just made it personal. He stood, gently setting Sophia down. I need to make a call. You two get settled. He walked downstairs, stepped outside into the cold afternoon air, and dialed a number he'd sworn never to use again. The voice that answered was rough, older, but unmistakable. I was wondering when you'd call, kid. Marco, Lorenzo said. We need to talk. I figured. Heard you've got trouble. Heard you're part of it. A pause. Then a low chuckle. Vittorio's ambitious. But he's young. Doesn't remember the old rules. The ones about families being off limits. Are you asking me to remind him? I'm saying some of us remember why we used to sleep easy when you ran things. Order. Rules. Honor. Even among thieves, Marco's voice hardened. This new generation? They're animals. Maybe it's time someone taught them how things used to be done. Lorenzo looked back at the house where his daughter was choosing which stuffed animals to put on her bunk bed. I'm not coming back, Marco. Not permanently. Didn't ask you to. Just handle Vittorio. Remind the youngbloods why ghosts should stay buried. Do that, and the rest of us will stay out of your way. And after? After, you disappear again.
For real this time.
We'll spread word you're dead. Make it stick. Your kid grows up normal. You get your happy ending. A pause. If you survive. If I don't. Then Vittorio was right, and you stayed gone too long. Either way, the question gets answered. Lorenzo closed his eyes. Tell the Castellanos to pull their men back. This is between me and Vittorio now. I'll pass the word. But Lorenzo? The others won't sit out easy. You're going to have to make a statement. Something that reminds everyone why your name still means something. I will. He hung up and stood there in the cold, watching smoke curl from the farmhouse chimney. Inside, he could hear Sophia's laughter, Elena's gentle voice. 5 years ago, he'd walked away from war. Now war had walked to his doorstep. And this time he had something worth fighting for. The first 3 days at the farmhouse developed a rhythm that felt almost normal. Almost. Mornings, Lorenzo made breakfast: scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice for Sophia. She sat at the kitchen table, swinging her legs, asking 1,000 questions about everything from why the sky was blue to whether the chickens they could hear in the distance had names. Can we name them? Sophia asked on the third morning, syrup on her chin. They're not our chickens, kiddo, but they need names. That one sounds like she's saying Barbara. Can we call her Barbara? Elena watched from the couch, her casted leg propped up, a small smile playing at her lips. You're going to spoil her. Good, Lorenzo said, wiping Sophia's face with a napkin. She deserves to be spoiled. But beneath the domestic surface, tension hummed like a live wire. Elena saw it in the way Lorenzo checked his phone constantly, the way his eyes tracked every bird that flew past the window, the way his hand instinctively moved to his waistband where he'd started carrying a gun again. At night, after Sophia fell asleep, they sat by the fireplace in careful silence. Elena reading, Lorenzo planning. The space between them filled with everything unsaid. On the fourth day, Sophia found a box of art supplies in one of the closets and decided Lorenzo needed a portrait. "Sit still," she commanded, wielding a crayon with serious concentration. "I am sitting still. You're thinking too hard. I can see it in your forehead. Stop thinking." Elena laughed from the couch. "Good luck with that." Lorenzo tried to relax as Sophia worked, her tongue poking out in concentration. She was drawing him in purple crayon with what appeared to be a cape. "Am I a superhero?" he asked. "Obviously. You're protecting us from bad guys." "That's what superheroes do," Sophia added a yellow sun in the corner. "Mommy says you used to do bad things, but now you're good. Is that true?" Elena's eyes shot up from her book. Lorenzo felt the weight of both their gazes. "Yeah," he said carefully. "I made a lot of mistakes. Hurt people I shouldn't have hurt. But I'm trying to be better now." "Why did you do bad things?" "Because I thought power was the most important thing. I thought if I was strong enough, I could protect everyone I loved. But I was wrong. I just pushed them away." Sophia considered this, then added a smaller figure next to his purple-caped form. "That's me. I'm helping you fight the bad guys." "You are, kiddo. Just by being here." When Sophia finished, she held up the drawing proudly. Lorenzo looked ridiculous. Purple cape, enormous muscles, a crown on his head. But beside him, tiny Sophia held his hand, and the sun shone overhead. "It's perfect," he said, his throat tight. "I know," Sophia handed it to him. "You can keep it. For bravery." After Sophia went upstairs to play, Elena spoke. "She's getting attached to you. Is that a problem?" "I don't know yet." Elena set her book down. 5 years, Lorenzo. 5 years she didn't know you existed. Now suddenly you're here, making breakfast, accepting crayon portraits, being the dad I always wanted you to be. What happens when this is over? When Vittorio's handled and we go back to our lives? "I don't know," Lorenzo admitted. "But I know I can't walk away from her. Not now. Not after." His phone buzzed. He checked it, and his expression darkened. "What?" Elena asked. "Tommy's outside. I asked him to come." "You brought someone here?" "To our safe house. I need information. And Tommy's the only one I trust." Lorenzo stood. "He doesn't know the exact location. I'm meeting him at the road." "Lorenzo. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone but me." He grabbed his jacket and gun. "I'll be back in 20 minutes. Elena watched him go, fear and frustration warring in her chest. Tommy Chun waited by a nondescript sedan at the end of the long driveway. He was in his 50s now, gray threading through his black hair, but he still had the alert posture of a man who'd survived decades in dangerous work. "Boss," he nodded as Lorenzo approached. The old title slipped out automatically. "Just Lorenzo now." "Old habits." Tommy handed him a folder. "Information you wanted. Vittorio's movements, family positions, who's still loyal to you." Lorenzo flipped through it. "The DeMarcos pulled back. After your conversation with Marco, yeah. Castellanos are officially neutral. But the Yukos are still backing Vittorio. And he's brought in outside contractors, Russians, from what I hear. Mean bastards who don't care about the old rules." "How many men does he have?" 40, maybe 50. Well armed. He set up a command post at the old meatpacking plant in Queens. "The one you used to own." Lorenzo's jaw tightened. "Of course he did." Symbolic. "There's something else." Tommy pulled out his phone, showed Lorenzo a video. "This went out on the underground channels yesterday." Lorenzo pressed play. Vittorio's face filled the screen, smooth and confident. "Lorenzo Moretti," Vittorio said to the camera, "you made a mistake coming back. You made a bigger mistake having a family. I'll give you 72 hours to turn yourself in. Come to the plant. Alone. Surrender your assets, your contacts, everything. Do that and maybe I let your daughter live. Don't, and I burn down everything you love. Starting with that pretty farmhouse you think nobody knows about." The video ended. Lorenzo's blood ran cold. He's bluffing. He doesn't know where we are. "You sure about that? Because 3 hours ago, A car was spotted on the county road nearest to here.
No plats.
Just circling. Could be coincidence. Or surveillance, Lorenzo's mind raced. We need to move. Tonight. Where? I have another place. Upstate. More remote, Lorenzo checked his gun. But first, I need you to spread a message. Let it be known through every channel that I'm accepting Vittorio's invitation. 72 hours from now, I'll be at the meatpacking plant. Tommy's eyes widened. That's suicide. No, it's strategy. He wants me to come alone and afraid. Instead, I'm coming prepared. Lorenzo handed the folder back. And I need to borrow some of your men. People you trust. How many?
10.
Well-trained. Loyal. Boss, Lorenzo, you've been out 5 years. You think you can just walk into a trap and walk back out? I think Vittorio's made a critical mistake. He thinks I'm weak now because I have something to lose. But that's exactly what makes me dangerous. Lorenzo started walking back toward the house. A man protecting his family doesn't fight to win. He fights to survive. And there's nothing more terrifying than that. Inside the farmhouse, Elena had managed to hobble upstairs to check on Sofia. She found her daughter at the window, looking out at the darkening forest. What are you thinking about, baby? Is Lorenzo really my dad?
Yes.
He is. Sofia was quiet for a moment. I asked him to braid my hair tomorrow. Like you do. Do you think he knows how? Elena's heart clenched. I don't think so. But I bet he'd try if you ask. Good, Sofia turned from the window. I like him, Mommy. He has sad eyes, but they get happy when he looks at us. That means he loves us, right?
Yes, sweetheart.
I think it does. Outside, Lorenzo stood at the tree line, watching the house. His phone buzzed with one final message from an unknown number. TikTok ghost. 72 hours. Don't keep us waiting. Lorenzo deleted it and headed inside. He found Elena and Sofia in the bedroom, Sofia chattering about naming all the forest animals. Hey, he said softly. Sofia? I have a favor to ask. What? Tomorrow morning, will you teach me how to braid hair? I never learned, and I think it's something dads should know. Sofia's face lit up like Christmas. Really? Really? As he stood there, watching his daughter's joy and Elena's cautious hope, Lorenzo made a promise to himself. Whatever darkness he had to embrace in the next 72 hours, he'd find his way back to this moment. The braiding lesson went about as well as expected. Sofia sat patiently on the couch, her teddy bear in her lap, while Lorenzo fumbled with sections of her dark curly hair. His fingers, hands that had once dismantled guns in seconds, that had signed deals worth millions, couldn't seem to master the simple over-under pattern.
No, Sofia giggled.
You're twisting it wrong. It's over, under, then you add more hair. I am adding more hair. That's my ear. Elena watched from the kitchen, coffee in hand, trying not to laugh. You're doing great, Lorenzo. Lying to me isn't helpful, Ellie. Okay, you're doing terribly. But it's adorable. After 20 minutes, Lorenzo had managed something that vaguely resembled a braid, though it was lumpy and already coming apart. Sofia ran to the mirror to inspect it. It's perfect, she declared, though it clearly wasn't. You're a kind liar, Lorenzo said. Mommy says sometimes little lies are okay if they make people happy. Sofia hugged him around the waist. Thank you for trying. Those 4 words hit harder than any bullet. But the moment shattered when Lorenzo's phone rang. Not the burner, but the other one. The one only Tommy had the number for. Lorenzo's face changed instantly. Go upstairs with your mom, Sofia.
Now.
Something in his tone made Sofia obey without question. Elena gathered her crutches, shooting him a worried look as she ushered their daughter away. Lorenzo answered. Talk. It started. Tommy's voice was tight. 20 minutes ago, Vittorio's men hit the restaurant on Mulberry Street. Your old place. They walked in during lunch rush, fired shots into the ceiling, told everyone Lorenzo Moretti sends his regards. Then they burned it down. Lorenzo closed his eyes. Casualties? 3 injured, none dead. But boss, That's not the worst part. They hit St. Mary's too. The church. His mother's church. Where she was buried. What did they do? Desecrated the cemetery. Spray-painted threats on her headstone. The priest called the cops, but Tommy trailed off. You know how that goes. Nobody saw anything. Lorenzo's grip on the phone tightened until his knuckles went white. There were rules. Even in the darkest days of his reign, there were rules. You didn't touch places of worship.
You didn't disrespect the dead.
And you never, ever brought civilians into the war. He's trying to make you emotional, Tommy continued. Make you sloppy. Come rushing and angry instead of smart. It's working. Don't let it. That's what he wants. Lorenzo forced himself to breathe. What else? Word on the street is he's planning something bigger. His men are moving tonight. Heavy weapons, multiple vehicles. I think he's going after your legitimate businesses. The furniture imports, the warehouses. Everything you built after you left. Let him. Those are just buildings. There's more, Tommy hesitated. He's putting out word that he knows where Sophia goes to school. Her teacher's name. Her classroom number. He's broadcasting it, Lorenzo. Making sure you know that he knows. The world went red at the edges. He's bluffing. She's not in school. She's here. Doesn't matter. He's sending a message. Nowhere is safe. No one is off limits, Tommy's voice dropped. This isn't how we used to operate. This is scorched earth. He's trying to draw you out by destroying everything you've ever cared about. Lorenzo walked to the window, looking out at the forest. Upstairs, he could hear Sophia's laughter, Elena's gentle voice reading a story. What's the count now? How many families are still backing him? Just the Yukos.
But they're all in.
15 men, plus Vittorio's 40. The Russians I mentioned? They arrived this morning. Ex-military. These aren't street soldiers, Lorenzo. These are trained killers. Good. Then it'll be a fair fight. This isn't funny. I'm not laughing, Lorenzo turned from the window. 72 hours, Vittorio said. That leaves me 54. Tell your men to be ready tomorrow night. And Tommy, get me everything you can on the meatpacking plant. Floor plans, security, exits. Everything. You're really going through with it? Walking into his trap. It's not a trap if you know it's coming. It's an opportunity, Lorenzo ended the call. He stood there for a long moment, then climbed the stairs. Elena sat on Sophia's bed, the little girl curled against her side, half asleep. The storybook lay open across Elena's lap. Elena looked up, saw his face, and her expression shifted. How bad? Can we talk outside? They moved to the hallway, leaving Sophia's door cracked open. Elena leaned on her crutches, waiting. He hit the restaurant. And the church. My mother's grave. Elena's hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God, Lorenzo. He's making it public.
Loud.
Wants everyone to know he's not afraid of me anymore. That the Moretti name means nothing. Maybe it shouldn't, Elena said quietly. Maybe you should let it die. Change our names, move to another country, start completely over. He knows about Sophia's school. Teacher's name, classroom number. He's broadcasting it. All color drained from Elena's face. Even though she's not there? Why would he? To show me he can reach her anywhere. That even if we run, he'll find us. Lorenzo's voice was cold, controlled. He's not just coming after me, Ellie. He's coming after the idea of me. Everything I built, everyone I protected. He wants to erase it all. Then let him. Who cares about your legacy? We're alive. Sophia's safe. That's all that matters. She's only safe until the next psychopath decides a 6-year-old is leverage. Or the one after that. Or the one after that. Lorenzo moved closer. I can run with you. We can disappear. Change our names, our faces, everything. But we'll never stop running. Every shadow will be a threat. Every stranger, a potential enemy. Is that the life you want for her? Elena's eyes filled with tears.
No.
But I don't want her to lose you either. If you go after Vittorio, if you walk into whatever trap he's setting, I know what I'm doing.
Do you?
Because 5 years ago you were the king. Now you're one man with a gun and a death wish. I'm one man with everything to lose. That makes me more dangerous than I ever was. Lorenzo touched her face gently. I'm not doing this for pride or power, Ellie. I'm doing this so Sophia can go to first grade without bodyguards. So she can name chickens and braid hair and have a normal life. But first I have to close this door. Permanently. And if you don't come back? The question hung in the air between them. Then you take Sophia and you disappear. Tommy will help you. New identities, new life. You'll be okay. We won't be okay without you. The words came out broken. She just found you. Elena stopped herself. Just what? I just started remembering why I fell in love with you. The man who makes terrible braids and lets a 6-year-old boss him around. Not the king.
Just.
Lorenzo. He kissed her forehead softly. Then I'll make sure I come back. Because I just started remembering what it feels like to be human. Downstairs, his burner phone buzzed with an incoming video message. Lorenzo pulled away from Elena, checked it. His blood turned to ice. The video showed the meatpacking plant, lights blazing, men with rifles patrolling, and in the center of the main floor, a chair, waiting. Vittorio's voice overlaid the footage. 48 hours now, Ghost. The clock's ticking. And every hour you make me wait, I destroy another piece of your old life. Tomorrow, it's the community center your mother founded. The day after?
Well.
Maybe I'll visit that pretty farmhouse. I hear the woods are lovely this time of year. The video cut to black, then one final image appeared, a photograph of the farmhouse, taken from the road. Recent.
Today.
Lorenzo's hands shook with rage. Elena saw his expression. What is it? We need to leave. Right now. Lorenzo. He knows where we are. They were packed and out of the farmhouse in 30 minutes. Sophia, confused and scared, clutched her teddy bear in the back seat while Elena tried to keep her calm. Lorenzo drove fast but controlled, his eyes constantly checking the mirrors. Where are we going? Sophia asked in a small voice. On an adventure, Elena said, forcing brightness into her tone. Right, Lorenzo?
Right. A surprise aventure.
But there was no adventure in Lorenzo's eyes. Only cold calculation. He drove for 2 hours, taking random turns, doubling back, making sure they weren't followed. Finally, he pulled into a small motel off Route 9, the kind of place that took cash and didn't ask questions. Stay here, he told Elena. Keep the door locked. I'll be back in 3 hours. Where are you going? To end this. But not the way Vittorio expects. Elena grabbed his arm. Lorenzo, please. Don't do anything stupid. I'm done being stupid. Now I'm being smart. He kissed Sophia's forehead. Be good for your mom, kiddo. Are you coming back? Always. He left before Elena could stop him. Lorenzo drove to a diner in Poughkeepsie and slid into a booth at the back. Tommy arrived 10 minutes later with a laptop and a grim expression. You're playing with fire, Tommy said, opening the computer. Good thing I know how to burn. Lorenzo studied the screen, detailed surveillance photos of the meatpacking plant, guard rotations, weapon counts. He's got 55 men. I've got 10. Those aren't good odds. So we get more men.
No.
We get smarter. Lorenzo zoomed in on a photo. Vittorio thinks I'm coming to fight. That I'll show up angry and stupid, guns blazing, trying to prove I'm still the king. That's what he's prepared for. What are you prepared for? Lorenzo smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Vittorio was my student. I taught him everything, tactics, strategy, how to read people. But there's one thing I never taught him. What's that? How to fight someone who doesn't care about winning. Only surviving. Lorenzo pulled out his phone. I need you to spread some information. False information. Let it slip that I'm moving Elena and Sophia to a safe house in Connecticut. Give them an address. A fake address.
No.
A real one. Abandoned warehouse I used to own. Has some security. Looks legitimate. Lorenzo's eyes glittered. While Vittorio sends his men there, thinking he's getting ahead of me, I'll be somewhere else entirely. Where? Right under his nose, Lorenzo pointed to the surveillance photo. See this section? The old administrative offices. Vittorio's using them as his command center. 3 guards, maybe 4.
Sloppy.
He's focused on the main floor, expecting a frontal assault. Tommy stared. You're going to sneak into his headquarters? Not to fight. To listen, Lorenzo pulled out a small black device, a digital recorder with a transmitter. I'm going to plant bugs in his office. Record his conversations. His plans. Everything. That's insane. That's why it'll work. He thinks I'm a blunt instrument. All muscle and rage. He's forgotten I used to be smart. Lorenzo closed the laptop. Once I have his communications, I'll know his next move before he makes it. Where his men are positioned. What his real target is. And then what? Then I don't fight him on his terms. I make him come to me. On my terms, Lorenzo stood. But first, I need to give him something to chase. The Connecticut address.
Exactly.
He'll send 20, maybe 30 men. Split his forces. Weaken his position. While they're raiding an empty warehouse, I'll be planting evidence. What kind of evidence? Lorenzo's smile turned predatory. The kind that destroys empires. Financial records. Communications with corrupt cops. Deals with the Russians that violate about 15 international laws. I've been collecting information on Vittorio for 3 years. Ever since I heard he was making moves. I just never had a reason to use it. Now you do. Now I do. Lorenzo pulled out a second phone. Not his burner, something else. This gets uploaded to every law enforcement database simultaneously.
FBI, de Interpol.
I won't just destroy Vittorio. I'll destroy everyone backing him. The Yukos. The Russians. All of it. Tommy sat back, impressed despite himself. You're going to bring down the whole house.
No.
I'm going to make them bring it down themselves. Rats fleeing a sinking ship. Vittorio's allies will turn on him the second they realize he's toxic. He'll be alone. Vulnerable. And then you disappear. Let the law handle him. Exactly.
No bloodbath.
No war. Just information, leverage, and pressure applied at exactly the right points. Lorenzo checked his watch. I need your men ready tomorrow night. Not to fight, to extract. Get Elena and Sofia somewhere truly safe, while Vittorio's distracted.
Can you do that?
Where? Canada. I have contacts in Toronto. Clean papers, new identities. They'll be set up in 48 hours. And you? I'll join them when this is finished. Tommy studied him. You really think you can just walk away after? The families won't forget. Someone will always be looking. Let them look. Lorenzo Moretti will be dead. Officially.
Completely.
The man who joins his family in Toronto will be nobody. Just a guy who imports furniture. He paused. Like I should have been 5 years ago. And, if something goes wrong, then make sure Elena and Sofia get out. That's the priority. Not me. Tommy nodded slowly. You've changed, boss. I had to. For her, Lorenzo pulled out his wallet, showed Tommy the crayon drawing Sofia had made, the purple-caped superhero holding her hand. This is who I'm fighting for now. Not territory. Not respect. Just her. That's what makes you dangerous now. You've got nothing to lose except everything that matters. Exactly. They spend the next hour going over details, timing, equipment, exit strategies. When they finally left the diner, Lorenzo drove back toward the motel, but stopped a mile away at a gas station. He called Elena from a payphone. Are you okay? Her voice was tight with worry.
I've fine.
Listen, tomorrow night, Tommy's going to move you and Sofia north. To Canada. Don't argue, just trust me. What about you? I'll be right behind you. 2 days, maybe 3. But I need to know you're safe first. Lorenzo. Ellie, please. This is the only way I can do what needs to be done. If I'm worried about you too, I'll make mistakes. Let me focus on ending this. Silence. Then, Sofia asked when you were coming back. I told her soon. Don't make me a liar. I won't. Promise me. On her life. Promise me you'll come back. Lorenzo closed his eyes. I promise. On her life. I'll come back. Okay. Okay, Elena's voice cracked. Be careful. Please. Always. He hung up and stood there in the cold night air, watching his breath fog in the darkness. Somewhere in the city, Vittorio was planning his next move, confident in his superior numbers, his youth, his hunger. But Vittorio had made one critical mistake. He'd given Lorenzo something to fight for that was bigger than pride or power. And that made all the difference. Lorenzo got back in his car and drove into the night. Tomorrow, the real game would begin. Not the one Vittorio expected, the one Lorenzo had been planning since the moment he saw his daughter's face. The king was dead, but the father was just getting started. The Connecticut address Tommy leaked hit the underground networks at 10 a.m. By noon, Vittorio had taken the bait. Lorenzo watched from a rooftop 3 blocks away as black SUVs converged on the abandoned warehouse. 32 men, heavily armed, moving with military precision. Vittorio wasn't taking chances. But Vittorio wasn't there. He was too smart to risk himself on a simple extraction.
Perfect.
While his men surrounded an empty building, Lorenzo was already moving toward the meatpacking plant in Queens. He ditched the SUV for a delivery van. White, nondescript, the kind that became invisible in industrial areas. Inside, he wore maintenance coveralls with a fake company logo. A toolbox sat beside him, but inside weren't tools. Inside was everything he needed to dismantle an empire. The plant's perimeter was guarded, but not as heavily as before. Vittorio had pulled men for the Connecticut operation. Only 12 remained, clustered near the main entrances. The administrative section, the old offices Lorenzo knew better than anyone, had just 3 guards. He parked 2 blocks away and approached on foot, carrying the toolbox. Just another maintenance worker doing a job. The guards barely glanced at him. HVAC repair, Lorenzo said, showing a fake work order. Got a call about the heating system in the offices. The guard, young and bored, waved him through. Make it quick. Lorenzo climbed the exterior stairs to the second-floor offices. The door was locked, but he'd installed these locks 15 years ago. Had them changed a dozen times since. But the building's bones were the same, and Lorenzo had always kept a backup plan. He bypassed the lock in 40 seconds. Inside, the offices were exactly as he'd remembered, long hallways, rooms converted into meeting spaces, and at the end, the main office. Vittorio's command center. The door was ajar. Lorenzo could hear voices, 2 men talking inside. Connecticut team just breached. Nothing yet, but they're clearing room by room.
Good.
When they confirmed the wife and kid, we moved to phase 2-inch. Lorenzo recognized the second voice. Marco's nephew, Tony, one of Vittorio's lieutenants. What's phase 2? The first voice asked. Leverage. We grab the kid, make Moretti watch what happens when you cross Vittorio Rossi. Then we put a bullet in all 3 of them. Send a message to anyone who thinks the old ways still matter. Lorenzo's hands tightened on the toolbox.
Steady.
Emotion makes you sloppy. He waited until both men left the office, heading to the main floor to coordinate, then slipped inside. Vittorio's command center was organized chaos. Maps on the walls, photos of Lorenzo's legitimate businesses marked for destruction, and in the corner, a communication hub. Phones, laptops, encrypted radios. Lorenzo worked fast. Bug under the desk. Another in the phone. A third inside the laptop's charging port. All tied to a remote transmitter in his pocket. Within 5 minutes, he owned every conversation that would happen in this room. Then he saw it. On the desk, a folder marked insurance inside. Detailed surveillance of Sofia. Photos of her at the Brooklyn apartment building, walking to the corner store with Elena, playing in a small park. Timestamps, locations, patterns. And underneath, a map of Toronto with an address circled. The address of Lorenzo's contact. They knew. Somehow, Vittorio knew about the Canadian escape plan. Lorenzo's blood ran cold. He pulled out his phone, took photos of everything, then froze. Footsteps in the hallway.
Multiple men.
coming fast. He glanced at the window, second floor, fire escape outside. But the window was painted shut, would make noise opening. The door was the only exit, and men were approaching. Lorenzo did the only thing he could. He slid under the desk, pulled his gun, and waited. The door opened. 3 sets of footsteps entered. Absolutely sure? Vittorio's voice, sharp and excited. They're certain it's them? Positive, boss. Connecticut team confirms. Convoy spotted heading north on Route 7. Civilian car, woman matching Elena Moretti's description, child in the back seat. They're following at a distance. Lorenzo's heart stopped. Convoy? There was no convoy. Elena and Sofia were at the motel, waiting for Tommy. Unless. Beautiful, Vittorio laughed. He thinks he's so smart, sending decoys to Connecticut while moving his real family somewhere else. But we've been tracking every car within 50 miles of that farmhouse. Did he really think we wouldn't notice? What do you want us to do? Let them get to the secondary location. Wherever Moretti thinks is safe. Then we take them. Use them to draw him out. Vittorio paused. Actually, no. Change of plans. Stop them now. On the highway. Make it look like an accident. Kill the wife. Take the kid. And Moretti will come running straight to us. Emotional. Broken. Easy to kill. Lorenzo's finger moved to the trigger. 3 feet away. He could take them all, but the noise would bring more guards. And if Vittorio died here, his men would scatter, including whoever was following that convoy. But if Lorenzo didn't act, that convoy would be stopped. And whoever was in that car.
Wait. Convoy. Decoy.
Elena's description. Tommy. Tommy had sent a decoy. Lorenzo's mind raced through the possibilities. Tommy must have anticipated Vittorio's surveillance. Set up a fake extraction to draw attention away from the real one, which meant Elena and Sofia were moving now, while everyone watched the decoy. But if the decoy got stopped, if Vittorio's men discovered it was fake, they'd know. They'd scatter their forces, find the real car. Lorenzo needed them to believe the decoy was real, at least long enough for Elena and Sofia to cross the border. Under the desk, Lorenzo made a decision. He pulled out his own phone. Not the burner, not the regular phone, but a third device. A disposable. He typed a quick message to Tommy. Decoy compromised. Abort real extraction. Go now. But he couldn't send it. Not without the phone's light giving away his position. Vittorio and his men were still talking. Want confirmation when they have the girl. Photos.
Video.
I want Moretti to see what we have before we make the trade. What trade? You said we'd kill them. We will. But first I want to watch him beg. The great Lorenzo Moretti, on his knees, pleading for his daughter's life. That's the image that'll destroy his legacy forever. The men left, their footsteps receding down the hallway. Lorenzo waited 30 seconds, then slid out from under the desk. He sent the message to Tommy, then looked at the bugs he'd planted. They were useless now. He'd heard what he needed to hear. Vittorio knew about the decoy. Knew about Toronto. Knew too much. Someone had talked. Or Vittorio had been smarter than Lorenzo gave him credit for. Either way, the plan was blown. Lorenzo moved to the window, forced it open despite the noise. The fire escape groaned under his weight as he descended. No alarms yet, but they'd know someone had been there soon. He reached the van and drove, not back to the motel but to a new location. A backup plan for the backup plan. His phone buzzed. Tommy, got your message. Real extraction already in motion. They're clean. ETA to border, 2 hours. Relief flooded through him. Elena and Sofia were safe. Moving. The decoy had worked perfectly, drawn all attention while the real escape happened invisibly. But then another message came through. Boss problem. Decoy car just got stopped. Highway patrol, but too many officers, wrong uniforms. It's Vittorio's men. They're about to discover it's empty. Lorenzo pulled over, his mind racing. Once Vittorio knew the decoy was fake, he'd realize Lorenzo had outmaneuvered him. He'd panic, scatter his forces to find the real extraction. Unless Lorenzo gave him something bigger to focus on. Lorenzo turned the van around, heading back toward the meatpacking plant. He texted Tommy, "Tell your decoy drivers to run." Led Vittorio's men on a chase. Away from the border. Away from the real extraction. Where to? Lorenzo smiled grimly. To me, he was done playing defense. Done hiding. Done running. If Vittorio wanted Lorenzo Moretti, he'd give him exactly that. But not the broken, emotional man Vittorio expected. The king. One last time. Lorenzo pressed the accelerator and drove toward the war he'd been avoiding. Not for pride. Not for power. For the two people in a car somewhere behind him, driving toward safety and a future he'd bought them with one final performance. The abandoned opera house on the edge of Red Hook stood like a ghost of old New York, beautiful even in decay. 15 years ago, Lorenzo and Vittorio had met there for the first time. A young Vittorio, ambitious and hungry, had asked to join Lorenzo's organization. Lorenzo had brought him to this place, tested him, and ultimately made him a lieutenant. Now Lorenzo stood on the same stage, alone, waiting. The text he'd sent Vittorio was simple. "You want me? I'm at the beginning, where it all started. Come alone, or you'll never know what I took from your office." It was 11 p.m. The decoy chase had led Vittorio's men on a wild pursuit through 3 counties before the drivers finally ditched the car and vanished. By Lorenzo's calculations, Elena and Sofia had crossed into Canada 20 minutes ago. Safe. Beyond Vittorio's reach. Now he could finish this. Footsteps echoed through the opera house. Not one person. Multiple. Lorenzo smiled grimly. Of course Vittorio hadn't come alone. The main doors opened, and Vittorio walked in flanked by 6 armed men. He looked confident, expensive suit unmarred, hair perfectly styled. A young king entering his domain. Lorenzo, Vittorio's voice carried through the empty space. "I have to admit, this is poetic. Coming back to where we began." Seemed appropriate. Lorenzo stood center stage, hands visible, no weapon drawn. "You wanted to talk. So talk." "There's nothing to talk about. You're finished. Your family's gone. Yeah, we figured out the decoy.
Cute trick.
But we'll find them. Canada, Mexico, Europe, doesn't matter. We have resources, time, and motivation. Do you?" Lorenzo pulled out his phone. "That's interesting. Because 10 minutes ago, I sent a very detailed file to the FBI. Financial records showing your connections to the Russian Bratva. Communications proving you've been smuggling weapons through ports you don't control. Ports that belong to the Castellano family." Vittorio's expression flickered. "You're bluffing." "Am I? Check your encrypted server. The one you thought was secure. I've been inside your network for 3 days, Vittorio. Every email, every text, every phone call. I own all of it." Lorenzo's voice was ice. "I also sent evidence to Marco Castellano showing how you've been skimming from joint operations. And to Yuki Tanaka proving you planned to betray the Yukos the moment this was over. By morning, you won't have any allies left. Just enemies." One of Vittorio's men whispered something urgent. Vittorio pulled out his phone, checked it, and his face went pale. "You're lying. Your server's been wiped, hasn't it?" "That was me. 30 minutes ago. But don't worry, I kept copies of everything. Uploaded to 3 different cloud services, set to release automatically if I don't check in every 12 hours. So if you kill me here, all that information goes public anyway. To the FBI, to your rivals, to the press. Your empire burns either way." Vittorio's hand moved toward his gun. "You son of..." "I wouldn't." Lorenzo's voice cut through the air like a blade. "Look up." Vittorio and his men looked up at the opera house balconies. Red dots appeared on their chests, laser sights from hidden positions. "Tommy's men," Lorenzo said calmly. 10 snipers. "I lied when I said come alone. Just like you lied about everything else. Difference is, my people listen to me." "You think you've won?" Vittorio's voice shook with rage. You think this changes anything? It changes everything. Because I'm not here to kill you, Vittorio. I'm here to give you a choice. What choice? Lorenzo pulled a small recording device from his pocket, pressed play. Vittorio's voice filled the opera house. Want Moretti to watch what happens when you cross Vittorio Rossi. Then we put a bullet in all three of them. Send a message to anyone who thinks the old ways still matter. Another clip. Make it look like an accident. Kill the wife. Take the kid. And another. I want to watch him beg. The great Lorenzo Moretti, on his knees, pleading for his daughter's life. Lorenzo stopped the recording. That's just a sample. I have hours of your voice. Ordering hits. Threatening civilians. Planning to murder a 6-year-old child. Now, here's your choice. You can try to kill me here, and my snipers kill you and your men. The recordings go public, and the FBI tears apart everything you've built. Or what? You walk away. Tonight. Leave New York. Leave the families. Disappear the same way I did 5 years ago. I'll bury the evidence. Wipe it clean. You get to live, start over somewhere else. But you never come near my family again. Ever. Vittorio laughed, but it was hollow. You expect me to just run? Abandon everything I've built? I'm giving you what I took 5 years ago, a chance to walk away with your life. Most people don't get that option. I'm only offering because I don't want my daughter growing up knowing her father killed someone. I'm trying to be better, Vittorio. But if you make me choose between being good and protecting her, Lorenzo's eyes went cold. I'll choose her every single time. This is insane. The families won't let me just walk away. The families think you're toxic now. I made sure of that. Marco's already calling for your head. The Yukos are cutting ties. You're alone, Vittorio. The only question is whether you're smart enough to stay alive. Sirens wailed in the distance. Growing closer. What's that? Vittorio asked. Insurance. I called in an anonymous tip about illegal weapons at this location. The police will be here in about 3 minutes. You can be here when they arrive and answer questions about why you're meeting with a dead man, or you can leave.
Now.
Vittorio's jaw clenched. His hand hovered near his gun. For a moment, Lorenzo thought he'd choose violence. The red dots on the men's chests seemed to glow brighter. Then Vittorio lowered his hand. You've ruined me.
No.
I've freed you. The same way Elena freed me 5 years ago, Lorenzo's voice softened slightly. I taught you to be a king, Vittorio. But I never taught you the most important lesson. Some crowns aren't worth wearing. Walk away. Start over. Be someone your mother would be proud of instead of someone she'd fear. My mother's dead. So was I for 5 years. But I came back. You can too. Just not here. Not as this. The sirens were closer now. 2 minutes, maybe less. Vittorio looked at his men, then back at Lorenzo. If I ever see you again. You won't. Because Lorenzo Moretti died tonight. In this opera house. Officially. Completely, Lorenzo pulled out a fake passport, driver's license documents. He dropped them on the stage. Burn these. Let them find the ashes. Let everyone think I'm finally gone. You get to live, I get to disappear. We both win. This isn't winning.
No.
It's surviving. Learn the difference. The opera house doors burst open, not police, but Tommy and his men, moving quickly. Boss, we need to go.
Now.
Real cops are 90 seconds out. Lorenzo backed toward the stage exit, keeping his eyes on Vittorio. Choose, Vittorio. Life or pride? You've got 30 seconds. Vittorio stood there, surrounded by reds, sirens screaming closer, his empire crumbling around him. Then, he did something Lorenzo didn't expect. He smiled. A real smile, not the practiced one he wore like armor. You really did it. You actually got out and stayed out. I thought it was impossible. It's not, but it's hard. Harder than fighting. Lorenzo paused at the exit. Don't make the same mistakes I did. Don't wait until you've lost everything to figure out what matters. Blue and red lights flashed through the opera house windows. Vittorio turned to his men. We're leaving. Different exits. Scatter. Don't come back. He looked at Lorenzo one last time. Tell your daughter, tell her she's lucky to have a father who chose her over everything else. Tell her yourself. Someday, when you've become someone worth meeting. Lorenzo disappeared through the stage exit as police poured through the front doors. Behind him, he heard Vittorio and his men scattering, heard the police finding nothing but empty space and burned documents on a stage. By the time they searched the building, everyone was gone. Just ghosts and echoes in an abandoned opera house where two kings had met and one had finally learned to let go. The news broke at 6 a.m. Mob boss Lorenzo Moretti confirmed dead in Queens warehouse fire. The story spread like wildfire through every news channel, every underground network, every whispered conversation in the places where New York's shadows did business. According to reports, Lorenzo Moretti had been killed in an explosion at an abandoned meatpacking plant, the same location where Vittorio Rossi had established his operations. DNA evidence from dental records confirmed the body. Security footage showed a man matching Moretti's description entering the building hours before the fire. No one questioned it. After all, ghosts eventually become corpses. By noon, the dominoes started falling. The FBI raided 17 locations across New York, New Jersey, and Philadelphia. They seized servers, arrested low-level operators, and announced a major operation against organized crime networks with ties to international weapons trafficking. Vittorio Rossi's name appeared in the first wave of indictments, but Vittorio was nowhere to be found. His apartment was empty, his phone dead, his accounts frozen. He'd vanished like smoke. Marco Castellano held a press conference, his lawyers speaking carefully. The Castellano family operates legitimate businesses only. Any allegations of criminal activity are false and will be vigorously defended in court, but privately, Marco was already distancing himself from anyone connected to Vittorio. Yuki Tanaka was more direct. She called a meeting of the remaining family heads and made a simple announcement. The Yukos are out. Completely. We're moving operations to the West Coast. What happens in New York is no longer our concern. By evening, Vittorio's empire had collapsed entirely. His soldiers scattered, his assets seized or claimed by rivals, his name becoming a cautionary tale about ambition outpacing wisdom. In a coffee shop in Newark, Anthony DeMarco met with his accountant and quietly began liquidating his more questionable investments. The writing was on the wall. The old ways were dying, and those who didn't adapt would die with them. But the strangest news came 3 days later. Anonymous leaks began appearing to investigative journalists. Detailed financial records showing which police officers had been on certain payrolls, which judges had taken bribes, which politicians had looked the other way. Names, dates, amounts, everything documented with meticulous precision. The mayor held an emergency press conference. We are committed to rooting out corruption at every level. These allegations will be investigated thoroughly. By the end of the week, 12 NYPD officers were suspended, 4 city councilmen resigned, and the district attorney announced a special task force. Someone was cleaning house. Someone with access to decades of dirty secrets. Tommy Chin watched the news from his apartment, a slight smile on his face. He knew exactly who was behind the leaks. One final gift from a ghost, burning down the corrupt systems that had allowed men like Vittorio to flourish. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Single text. Thank you for everything. Give them hell.
And
Tommy deleted the message and poured himself a drink. To absent friends and new beginnings. Across the city, in places high and low, people reacted to Lorenzo Moretti's death in different ways. At St. Mary's Church, Father Michael held a quiet memorial. Only 3 people attended, elderly parishioners who remembered Lorenzo's mother, who'd once been the heart of this neighborhood. They prayed for his soul, hoping he'd found peace. At the restaurant on Mulberry Street, burned but being rebuilt, the new owner found an envelope of cash in the mailbox. No note, just enough money to finish the renovations.
F.
Impossible to trace. At the community center Rosa Moretti had founded 40 years ago, the director discovered their mortgage had been mysteriously paid off. The bank claimed it was an accounting correction, but the director knew better. She hung a small photo of Rosa in the hallway, next to it a handwritten sign. Some legacies never die. In Brooklyn, at Sophia's school, the principal received a large anonymous donation to the scholarship fund. The note attached said simply, "For the children who dream of better futures." Lorenzo Moretti was dead, the news said. But his ghost was busy. On the 7th day, Tommy received a package. Inside was a burner phone with a single contact saved, family. He didn't call it. He just kept it charged, waiting. The phone rang at midnight. "It's me," Lorenzo's voice, quiet and tired. "Are they looking?" "Not anymore. The FBI is satisfied. The families consider you gone. Vittorio's warrant just went international, but smart money says he's already in South America somewhere." "Good. How's the family?" A pause. Then, "Perfect. She started school today. First grade, just like Elena wanted. Cried a little at drop-off, but came home excited about her teacher and new friends. Normal kid problems." Tommy smiled. "And Elena?" "Learning to forgive me. It's slow. But we've got time now." Lorenzo's voice carried something Tommy had never heard before. Contentment. "Thank you, Tommy. For everything. For believing I could be more than what I was. You always were more, boss. You just needed a reason to see it. I'm not the boss anymore. I'm just a guy named Michael Carson who imports furniture. Boring. Invisible. Exactly what I need to be." Michael Carson. That's a terrible name. Sophia picked it. Said I looked like a Michael. Tommy laughed. "She's got your instincts." "God, I hope not. I hope she never has to develop those instincts." A breath. "I'm destroying this phone after this call. You won't hear from me again. We're really gone this time." "I know." Tommy raised his glass to the phone. "Be happy, Lorenzo. You earned it." "So did you. Take care of the old neighborhood for me.
Keep them honest."
Someone has to." The line went quiet for a moment. Two old friends saying goodbye. "Tommy, one more thing." "Yeah. If Sophia ever asks about me, about who I was before, tell her the truth. Tell her I was a bad man who tried to be good. That I made mistakes, but I tried to fix them. Don't make me a hero. Just make me human." "I will. Now go. Be with your family." The call ended. Tommy sat in his apartment, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, probably Toronto or Vancouver or some quiet town nobody had heard of, Lorenzo Moretti was reading bedtime stories and making terrible braids and learning what it meant to be a father. The king was dead. Long live the father. Tommy finished his drink, smashed the burner phone, and scattered the pieces. Some ghosts deserve to rest in peace. And some men deserve their second chances. 3 weeks later, Victoria, British Columbia. The small coastal house sat tucked behind a row of cedar trees, the kind of place where neighbors minded their own business and city noise was replaced by ocean waves. Elena stood in the kitchen, cooking dinner while rain pattered against the windows. She moved easier now. The cast was off, replaced by a walking boot she'd be rid of in another week. Physical therapy 3 times a week. Normal problems. Human problems. Sophia sat at the table, coloring. Her new school uniform, navy blue with a crest, hung on the back of her chair, ready for tomorrow. She'd been nervous about starting at yet another new school, but the teacher had been kind during the visit, and there was a girl next door her age who'd already invited her over to play. Normal. They were building something normal. "Mommy, do you think Barbara misses us?" Sophia asked, not looking up from her drawing. "Who's Barbara?" "The chicken. From the farmhouse. Remember?"
Elena smiled sadly.
"I'm sure she's fine, baby. Chickens are very resilient. Like us."
"Yeah."
"Like us."
The doorbell rang. Elena froze.
They weren't expecting anyone. Didn't know anyone here yet. The house was rented under a false name, paperwork processed through layers of shell companies. Stay here, she told Sophia, reaching for the phone Tommy had given her. One button for emergency. One call, and they'd disappear again within hours. She approached the door, looked through the peephole. A delivery man stood on the porch, holding a package. Baseball cap pulled low, jacket collar up against the rain. Normal, except the way he stood, the set of his shoulders. Something familiar. Elena opened the door a crack, keeping the chain on. Delivery for Carson? The man said, voice muffled. Carson. Their new name. But they'd had nothing delivered. Elena's hand moved toward the phone. Then the delivery man looked up, and she saw his eyes.
Dark.
Intense.
Heartbreakingly familiar.
Lorenzo? She whispered. He pulled the cap lower.
Package for you, ma'am.
Needs a signature. Elena's hands shook as she unchained the door. He stepped inside quickly, closed it behind him, and only then pulled off the cap. It was him. Thinner, maybe. Beard grown out. Hair longer and dyed darker. But him. You shouldn't be here, Elena said, even as relief flooded through her. I know. I needed to see you. Both of you. Make sure you were really okay. We're okay. We're safe. You promised you'd wait. That it wasn't safe yet. It's not. But 3 weeks felt like 3 years. Lorenzo set down the package. Actually empty, just a prop. I was careful. 3 different flights, fake passport, cash only. Nobody followed me. I'll be gone by morning. Lorenzo.
Daddy.
They both turned. Sophia stood in the kitchen doorway, clutching her teddy bear, eyes wide. Hey, kiddo, Lorenzo said softly. Sophia ran to him, and he caught her, lifting her up. She wrapped her arms around his neck and buried her face in his shoulder. You came back, she said into his jacket. Mommy said you would, but I was scared you wouldn't. I promised, didn't I? I always keep my promises to you. Lorenzo held her tight, his eyes closed. Over her head, he met Elena's gaze.
I'm sorry.
I know this isn't the plan. I know I'm risking. Stop, Elena said, moving closer. Just
stop.
You're here. That's what matters. I can't stay. You know that, right? Another week, maybe 2, and then we'll deal with it. Together, Elena touched his face, the new beard unfamiliar under her fingers. You look different. That's the idea. Michael Carson, furniture importer. Boring as hell. Is Michael Carson good at braiding hair? Because Sophia's been asking. Sophia pulled back from his shoulder. Mommy tries, but she's not as fun as you. You make them lumpy. Lorenzo laughed, and the sound was lighter than Elena had heard in years. Lumpy braids are my specialty. They stood there, the 3 of them, while rain drummed on the roof and the ocean whispered in the distance. A strange little family built from ruins and second chances. Have you eaten? Elena asked finally. Not really. Been traveling for 18 hours. Then sit. I made too much anyway. She moved back to the kitchen, her heart doing complicated things in her chest. He was here. Stupidly, dangerously, wonderfully here. Sophia dragged Lorenzo to the table, showed him her drawings. This is our new house. And this is you, me, and Mommy.
See?
We're all holding hands. In the drawing, 3 figures stood in front of a small house. A man, a woman, a little girl. Simple.
Perfect.
It's beautiful, Lorenzo said. I know. Sophia climbed into his lap. Are you staying forever now? Lorenzo and Elena exchanged glances. Not forever, Lorenzo said carefully. But I'll come visit. As often as I can. And when it's safe, really safe, maybe I can stay longer. When will that be? I don't know, kiddo. But I'm working on it. Elena served dinner, pasta, simple and warm. They ate together, Sophia chattering about her new school, the girl next door, a cat she'd seen in the garden. Normal conversation. Domestic. Like they were a real family instead of 3 people hiding from the world. After dinner, Sophia asked Lorenzo to read her a bedtime story. Just one, Elena said. It's already past your bedtime. 2, Sophia negotiated. 1.5.
Deal.
Lorenzo carried her upstairs to the small bedroom, painted soft yellow. Elena had insisted on yellow, said it reminded her of the farmhouse. Sophia's stuffed animals were arranged on her bed, her school uniform laid out for morning. He read her 2 full stories, unable to deny her anything, while Elena stood in the doorway watching. When Sophia finally fell asleep, her hand clutching his, he carefully extracted himself and tucked the blanket around her. She missed you, Elena whispered as they stepped into the hallway. I missed her. Both of you. Lorenzo looked around the small house. This is nice.
Quiet.
Everything I wanted for you. It's lonely sometimes. She asks about you every day. When you're coming. If you're safe. If we'll ever be together for real. What do you tell her? That her daddy loves her very much. And that someday, when the bad people forget about us, we'll be a real family, Elena's voice cracked. I want to believe that, Lorenzo. Tell me I'm not lying to her. Lorenzo pulled her close, and Elena let herself lean into him. Just for a moment. He smelled different, new soap, different cologne, but underneath was still him. You're not lying, he said into her hair. I'm making it happen. Slowly.
Carefully.
But I'm burning every bridge that could lead back to you. In 6 months, maybe a year, Lorenzo Moretti will be so thoroughly dead that no one will ever think to look for Michael Carson. And then I come home. For real. Forever, he pulled back, looked at her face. If you'll have me, I know I don't deserve it. I know I destroyed what we had. Elena kissed him. Sudden, fierce, desperate. When she pulled back, tears streamed down her face. Don't be noble. Don't tell me what you deserve. Just tell me you'll come back. I'll come back. I swear on everything I am, everything I was, I'll come back to you. They stood there in the dim hallway, holding each other while their daughter slept safely in the next room. Outside, the rain fell. The ocean sang. The world turned. And for one night, in a small house on the Canadian coast, 3 ghosts pretended they were real.